Welcome to the AtaQuit gaming channel. This is Whitaker and we'll be diving into Green Hell Co-op. Since the co-op version of this game is just released, we are going to be going over some need-to-knows, tips and tricks, and a few must-have things if you're looking to start out a game of co-op Green Hell. So why don't we start off with number 10? Since you are in a co-op game, it's probably best to stagger your sleep schedules. Sleeping for too long wastes unnecessary health to regain stamina, and not sleeping long enough can also hurt your stamina over long periods of time. Without sleep, you can get an in-game debuff, insomnia. Stamina and health are both resources you need to survive. Letting one or the other get too low can wind up with either death or passing out. And passing out is not ideal. It puts you on the ground, which could allow you to get dirty, a fever, or even worms, which can slowly decrease your health over time. So sleeping in cycles and making sure that you get enough, but not too much sleep, is the best option for survival when first starting out. Having the appropriate tools in this game is absolutely essential. So you're going to want to grab a fire starter as soon as possible, though there's a possibility you might not be able to get the fire starter without at least first having an axe. A spear is recommended for early game defense, and you should probably pick up a stone knife as well, just in case you kill anything worth skinning and collecting the meat from, because it's such a good source of protein. In order to use the fire starter though, you will definitely need leaves or dried bird's nests, fibers, something of that sort that you can find about. But be prepared to make more of them, because since you're not proficient with making or using any of these tools when you first begin, they're probably not going to last very long. So be prepared to make more than one. In order to create a fire, you do need quite a bit of stamina. So making a fire early is probably your best bet. It doesn't have to be somewhere like a fully built shelter. It can be on the edge of a cliff wall, or someplace that you think that you can defend rather easily. Preferably in a cave, because if you put your campfire out in the open, there's a chance that it will rain, because this is a rainforest, and it will immediately put out your campfire, wasting your dried leaves and your stamina, and it's an absolute mess. And at this point, since you are doing a co-op, there should be at least two people, hopefully, collecting resources, such as sticks, long sticks, short sticks, mostly just sticks. Alright, next tip. Food. It is a survival game. You're going to have some resource bars that you need to fill up. Food is going to be exceptionally important, and it's not going to be very abundant at first. You're going to have to scavenge, look for banana trees. We call them avocado trees. Don't know if they're avocados. Same with the tomatoes. Those are great. Good source of carbohydrates. But probably early game you'll be doing a lot more, like eating grubs or maggots, which is not ideal. Most mushrooms are actually really good for you. The ones that looks like an upside down cap, like a tiny bowl, those are parasite mushrooms. Super good for you. I thought I'd throw that one in there, extra one for you. But mostly, the mushrooms that are bad for you are on the walnut trees, the blue mushrooms. There's really no good effect that comes from those. But the ones that you find on the logs in the forest, or the stumps, or next to the river, or anything like that, they're just fine. You don't have to worry about those. And they're a great source of carbohydrates. Now you got to deal with your fats and your proteins. Like I said before, the maggots and the grubs can do that, but they drop insanity, or they drop sanity rather quickly, so I wouldn't rely on that too much. You're more than likely going to have to go hunting. And as for your fats, nuts on the ground. It's an unknown nut. I have no idea what the name is. It hasn't given me the name of it yet. Walnuts and unknown nuts are the great source of fat, unless you can go hunting for a tapir, which is, I don't even know if I'm saying that correctly. I don't regularly visit the Amazon, but if you happen to go hunting for one, they are an excellent source of fat. Finding a clean source of water is probably your next priority. You can drink from the rivers, but more than likely you'll get a parasite. There are a few sections in the map where the water actually looks blue and it just says unsafe. That is a bit better to drink, though there is still a possibility of getting parasites. Clean drinking water is exceptionally important. So if you could find a coconut, you can actually drink the coconut and harvest it. And when you harvest it, you'll get a wee bowl. And those bowls, you can actually leave out in the rain, which will make clean water as is. Or you can get another coconut to fill up as a Biden. Like a canteen, a little coconut canteen. And it'll hold about 40 water. I don't know what they use. Milliliters, I guess. Cups. Probably not ounces. But it might be. I don't know. It might be ounces. Probably milliliters though. Seems an awfully small amount. Anyway, you will definitely need to get at least one of those. So you can fill your Biden up and put your bowls on your campfire, and it will make your water safe to drink. And you can actually, if you can get 2 fires out at first, and then fill 4 bowls up, that will fill 1 Biden of clean water. So you can put all your water out, collect it all back in your Biden, and have a safeguard for when you go out exploring. Have some nice water. Coconuts also hydrate you as well. And like I mentioned, if you do happen to have to drink the dirty river water, parasite mushrooms, those will be the best. And you'll want to get on that rather quickly because, it could really hurt you. Also, if you put mushrooms in the clean water that you just cooked, making a soup, it gives +2 to parasites, or -2 to parasites, because you're getting rid of them. And if you find an avocado, I'm assuming that's what that is, you will also get -2 parasites. And if you put that into a soup, you'll get -3. Look at us go. So another source of protein, I forgot to mention earlier, rattlesnakes. They're relatively easy to kill, you hear them. Also, you'll find a bunch of dead birds just lying around in the forest. Macaws and such, and you can harvest those to get your feathers for your arrows, and it'll give you a bit of macaw meat. Frogs, just fine for protein. Any of the smaller bits that are easier to kill. Also, with most hunting, you can throw your spear, and it will more than likely kill the animal. The capybara, the tapir, the peccary. It will kill it. It'll run off a wee bit, but it will kill it eventually. So just chase after it. If you get a headshot, it's fine. Alright, we've settled out your campfire, your food, your water. You absolutely, at this point, need a shelter. This game is brutal, and you're going to want a shelter. As I mentioned previously, preferably in a cave. Caves are easily defendable, get you out of the rain. Though, depending on the cave, you could run into a problem of spawn rates for spiders and scorpions, which is not ideal. If it seems like every time you walk in and out of the cave, you're having to kill a spider or a scorpion, find another cave. It's not worth it. There's quite a few scattered throughout the map. You just gotta follow the cliff walls and you'll run into one eventually. But the cave does not actually act as shelter. You need a point to rest and to save. When you go in, try to find a decently large cave and set your shelter down in there. It should be a hut shelter, which is a shelter that already has a bed in it. So you're fine. It's like 3 long sticks and a bunch of little sticks and some palm leaves, and it should be just fine. Go ahead and build that up and rest. Generally, walking around at this point in time, if anything's big enough to kill me, is probably going to kill me. So I'll sacrifice a wee bit of help to make sure that I've got the stamina to explore. It's probably going to be way too expensive at this point in the game to actually build up a genuine shelter. Which is why we go into the cave and build a tiny one. You can build a fire in there, you've got your shelter in there, and it's exceptionally easy starter base. Alright, so far we've covered food, water, tools, shelter. And what we're on to next is preparation. Some people play it differently, but I play this game as I always need to be prepared for what happens. I always need to know or have a plan if something happens, because it's completely randomly generated. I don't know what's going to happen. So, let's say for example, I'm walking along the forest path and I don't hear the Brazilian wandering spider, and it catches me in the leg. Sucks to suck. Very unfortunate. But I need to have something on me that can help with that. So, first and foremost, I like to grab up some armor exceptionally quickly. So it's basically just banana leaves, and at this point in time, you're not using banana leaves for anything. So go over, find a banana leaf tree, cut it down. As long as you've got a bit of rope on you, you can make 4 pieces of basic armor. Now, if you've got the spare sticks or bones by chance at this point, then go ahead and make the stick of the bone armor. But usually at this point in time, I've just barely made my shelter. I don't have a lot of food, and I need some form of protecting myself as I walk through the jungle. It's not great protection, but anything is better than nothing. Also, Melanera leaves, or for bandages. They are absolutely fantastic. So when you get a venomous bite, or poisonous bite, venomous if it bites you, poisonous is whatever. Anyway, if you get one of those, you can use tobacco bandages. You can find tobacco out there as well. It's a pinkish flower that grows straight up. And combine it with your Melanera leaves. So you've got a wound, and make sure you treat that immediately. As soon as you're in a safe spot, either after you've killed the spider, the snake, or whatever's attacked you, as long as you didn't die, treat your wounds. Treat those bandages as quickly as possible. Throw a bandage on your arm. Scratches are really good. Lacerations are really good with ash bandages. Venomous bites are really good with tobacco bandages, but with most venomous bites you'll probably get a fever, which means that you'll need to find shelter as soon as possible, because the best way to get rid of a fever, if you don't got the herbs to deal with it, is to sleep. But everybody plays it a wee differently, so find out what your problem is as you play through the game. What comes across the most? If you've been able to get around every rattlesnake and spider, then you probably don't need to be carrying tobacco bandages. It does add a bit of extra weight, not much though, but it counts up. But if you've run into a problem with running out of arrows, that would be an exceptionally good spot to just fill that with. Get rid of the tobacco bandages, add some arrows, give a bit more room in your bag. But understand that preparing is probably what's going to save your life. Now, as I mentioned before, when you get a sting or a snake bite or a laceration or anything of that, parasites, stomach bugs, whatever it is, you need to treat it immediately. If it goes untreated, it could end up wrecking all health and stamina, and it's going to require a lot of resources to get you back up to full health. But if you treat it immediately, I can be walking through the forest, get stung by a scorpion, bandage it up, make sure that it's good, and it'll only take about 2 minutes for me to get rid of the wound, and then I'm back, and I have barely lost any stamina, any health. But untreated, that could wreck my entire adventure. I'd have to go back to base, I'd have to start eating, which means I'd need to start foraging for food again, because I just went through all of my entire stock, which puts me very far behind. So dealing with the problem that you've got immediately is probably going to be the best option. Alright, next up, you're prepared and you immediately put stuff on your wounds, but unfortunately, green hell threw a bit more than you could handle at you, and you end up dying. Well, you can still respawn, and you usually respawn at your bed. It's a respawn point. But unfortunately, there is a chance that you could lose something in your backpack. It could be completely random. You could lose a feather, or you could lose your obsidian bone blade. It's absolutely random. So, if I ever run into a scenario like this, and I'm around my shelter, or with a friend, I will throw my stuff on the ground, and they'll pick up the really important bits. That's only if dying is inevitable, which sometimes it is. unless you're playing on super hardcore mode, which you can't do in co-op anyway, but it's fine. So, there is a chance that you can die. It's fine, it happens to everyone, but you don't want to lose anything important. So go ahead and throw all that on the ground. This game has an exceptionally long despawn timer. Alright, you've started off. You successfully have a food pile, you've got shelter, you've got fire, you're prepped for whatever comes at you, and now you want to explore. Luckily, if you happen across any monuments in the map, whether you or your partner get it, you both get the blueprint. So if you happen to have to split off and do other things at different points in time, depending on what's going on, then the other person doesn't have to go where you are to pick up what it is that you got. And finding some of the bigger blueprints makes life so much easier later on. At the abandoned drug facility, there's a deadly trap, which makes protecting your base that much easier. I'm actually not sure if it was the bow trap or the deadly trap. If it's the bow trap, I don't really use that one. I mean, it's kind of cool if you get hunted by tribesmen, but the deadly trap is absolutely fantastic for catching tapir, capybaras, peccary, whatever's in your area, and you can't just learn it all willy-nilly. You've got to find the blueprint for it. But being as that you're co-op, try to get on some kind of voice comm or use the in-game walkie-talkie, because letting the other person know what's going on with you, you might be able to see something that he can't or she can't, and or vice versa. And communication would be phenomenal and save your life at that point. So when you're out going to new areas, it's probably best to go as a pair to watch each other's back. Call out different things that you see in the jungle. If you know they're low on bandages or food, sharing is an option, and you can find what it is that they want. And 2 eyes are better than none. Four eyes. 4 eyes are better than 2. That's the one I was looking for. All right. Here is a few quick ones for you, a few bonus ones, if you will. Tribal equipment is always better than anything that you can make. If you've got the opportunity, if you happen to kill a tribesman, if you've got the opportunity to pick up the tribal spear, the tribal bow, or the obsidian bone blade, or anything like that, tribal arrows, tribal is always better. Also, it's not really something that people look into when they first start this game, because there's so many other features like hunger and, you know, rashes and lacerations and poisons and food poisoning and fever and parasites. But it's absolutely necessary to keep your insanity or your sanity up, solely because you can't really hear what's going around you. If your sanity drops too low, you'll start hearing voices in your head. Actually, kind of a really cool mechanic, but with that also comes hallucinations. And my friend and I run into a few scenarios to where we're flipping out because there's tribesmen on the other side of the river, we're not prepared, and he shoots through them and they just puff into his smoke and just fade off. No, you've wasted arrows, you've wasted resources, you don't know what's real and what's not. There could be a jaguar coming for you. You don't know what's around that corner. Is it real? Is it not? Well, we're going to find out. As long as you keep your sanity up, it should be just fine. Sleep regularly, eat decent food-ish. You know, try to not eat weird stuff like grubs and maggots, but if you have to keep your protein up, absolutely go for it. And finally, my favourite one of the entire bunch. So, remember earlier when I said that you need to work as a team? Sometimes that's maybe not using your teammate as bait. I know that sounds awful, but sometimes it really works. Hear me out. So, there's a bunch of tribesmen over there. They're singing. We call them singers, which means that they're just in a circle singing around. They're usually between 3 to 5. And you need to get through that area. Alright, that's fair. You've got a bow, which is the preferable weapon anyway. You should definitely get a bow as soon as possible. You've got a bow, alright, and you take your first shot. Well, if you happen to get a headshot, it's a one-shot kill on anything. Literally anything. It is a one-shot kill. You can headshot a tribesman with an arrow, it'll instantly down them. You can headshot a jaguar with an arrow or a puma with an arrow, instant one shot. So, if you send your buddy out there and they're swinging at him standing still, making it easier to take your shot, it will actually kill them faster, them giving less damage to you guys, and essentially making it better to survive. But make sure that the one doing the baiting is the worst one with the bow. Obviously, don't send Grandmaster Archer over to do a bit of the stabby stab with the tribesman. Probably not your best move there. But, or especially with a jaguar. Jaguars and pumas like to sneak up on you, and if you hear them, you can get a headshot right off the bat. Also, headshots work for spears as well. I love that mechanic. It seems exceptionally realistic, but it's still incredibly hard to pull off. You need to be good with a bow. So just practice on smaller animals, and in no time you'll build up your bow, and you'll be able to hit those headshots all the time. This is Whitaker with AtaQuit Gaming, and I hope these tips and tricks for co-op Green Hell let you go into your next game and absolutely crush it. See you next time.